Hey, welcome back, Rocket fans. We appreciate you tuning in on an unfortunate post game here from the Ohio game, which definitely killed our chances to get in Detroit for the championship. But we're going to recap that game. We're going to talk about Akron coming up and give some highlights on what the basketball teams are doing. Ugly loss on Saturday for the men's basketball team, unfortunately, as well. Just a tough day overall, tough week for Toledo. Did want to give an update. Rocket Ryan did have his hip replacement surgery and seems to be doing well. He's recovering. Other than that, we got a full house on Zoom today, but he did want the fans to know that the first thing he asked when he woke up was the score of the Rockets game. So always a fan first. But with me tonight, we got Dan Rocketman Savage,
Hello.
Pat PJ Spiller,
Good evening, everybody.
and Nate the Texas Rocket.
Hey, how's it going?
So we're actually going to turn this over to Nate, and we're just going to kick it right off of the Ohio recap.
Yeah, wasn't the best game the Rockets have played. Unfortunately, didn't get the outcome we wanted. Lost 24-7 at home. Had about 14,000 fans in attendance for that game. Just felt like offensively, just couldn't get anything going. Leading rusher 30 yards. Gleason 136 yards, one touchdown, nothing. Just 9 for 17. Just couldn't get a rhythm offensively. Kind of frustrating. Torres had a nice touchdown. That was about the highlight of the offense. Defensively, Hook stepped up, had a good game. He was the one bright spot for that game, but just a disappointing outcome to a season that felt like could have got past this game. We had a shot at getting to the MAC championship. Just a tough way to be right there and not be able to make it to the MAC championship again. So, what are you guys' thoughts?
I'll start off. I'll highlight a few things. Something that we've seen a trend is Toledo's offense has not stayed on the field all season, and the defense has kind of been left out to dry. Ohio ran 73 plays, Toledo ran 51, and we only had 18 minutes and 36 seconds of total possession. We talked about it before. What was I scared of? I did predict an Ohio win, but tongue in cheek, Navarro ran for 104 yards, but he had no touchdowns through the air and one pick, and he had two rushing touchdowns. And then their bell cow, Tyus the third, he had like 125 yards on 33 carries. So we actually
He's a
like
good
bottled him
player.
up. We bottled him up pretty good, but like you could just tell, like at the goal line stand, I went and sat in the student section, and we forced them to like third down and one, and they had three plays, at 1 yard. They just look different back there. Those are some big dudes. Like it reminds me of having like a David Fluellen or somebody, and that's why Ohio is one of the best rushing offenses in the conference. I mean, that Navarro, it seemed like we had him sacked maybe 10 times, and he would just squeak through a little hole and make something out of nothing. So instead of having, third and longs, they were at third and manageable all game, and just seemed like they were just three plays in a cloud of dust and then another first down, and just kind of rammed it down our throat. Defense stood on their head again. They played great. I mean, it was 7-0 at halftime. The Rockets led, and really it was 7-7 in the fourth quarter, and we forced a fumble that had a terrible no call whistle, and they just said forward progress was stopped. It was just tough to see, and it was a little bit of a turning point. I think that the defense just, for the fourth or fifth time this year, you have a play like that, it just kills any sort of momentum, and the fact that the offense just couldn't get it going. It's tough to see a team that we had such high expectations for, but maybe a season that we shouldn't have had as high of expectations for, considering who we brought back. And honestly, I think the MAC's just better than it has been in the last few years. So
Yeah, when
Dan's
you
always stealing my thunder. I'll tell you that. It's just I
sorry.
was going to mention that. It's tough to stomach this loss just because it's so immediate right now. It was an ugly showing by Toledo, and Ohio got the exact game plan that they love to run. They had time of possession and they got to run the ball and they ran it well. So, it was a good game by Ohio and they did what they needed to do. Uh, but looking at the season overall, I'm still happy with how Toledo did and is still doing. I think they still possibly could win out and get a pretty solid bowl game. But like Dan said, coming in the season, we had so many question marks on the turnover from the previous season. And I really thought this was a scrappy team and found ways to win at times that we weren't sure. And, we do have a low point right now, but still remembering that high point against Mississippi State.
Right. That seems like ancient history right now, actually, but at least that's the high point of the season. And looking at how Mississippi State ended up doing the rest of the season, kind of puts a little damper on that enthusiasm. So I know there's a lot of people out there that are so-called Toledo fans on the interwebs that are calling for Coach Candle to be fired, which is absolutely ridiculous in my opinion. I mean, the guy's one win away from being the all-time winningest coach in school history. He's done nothing but, be bowl eligible and had winning seasons almost every year since he's been here. And he's been with the team a lot longer than he's been the head coach. He served as offensive coordinator under Campbell. I don't see who you're going to go out and get to replace him. You're going to get somebody from a no-name school or an assistant that's probably never had a head coaching job before from a bigger school. But I think the calls for his head are just ridiculous. I think he just signed a contract extension. He's got these players that come in and want to stay with the program and want to be loyal to him. So that says something about not only the quality of the player that he chooses, but the kind of culture that he's created with the university and what he's done to make not only a great football team, but these guys are good people. They're not getting in trouble. They're not going out and turning into idiots. They're all graduating. You've got several graduates on the team. And you've got transfers that are coming in after they've graduated where they could just go on and get on with their life, but they want to come play. So I think all of that noise is just ridiculous.
It's a great point, Pat.
Yes, that you've made all the points that I feel like half the fan base, or more than half, or at least the vocal half of the fan base, they can't respond to. 72 hours since I asked the question on Twitter. You can go answer it yourself if you're listening right now. Who is the guy that you want to replace him? And no one has an answer. Instead of going for the rational thought of maybe he needs to hire an offensive coordinator that actually plays, that calls plays, stuff like that, rational criticism, that's okay. But just every time you lose, it'd be like, fire him. Like, that doesn't make sense. That's like so illogical. He's the 82nd highest paid coach in college football. You can say that that's too high. We pay him $1.125 million, whatever. Well, Chuck Martin actually does make more than him at Miami, who we beat. We're 2-1 against him during Candle's tenure. So you can explain that away however you want. And Toledo's 76th right now, nationally ranked in the Massey Composite. So we're actually better than his paying salary is. And we're 87th in talent composite, which is number 1 in the MAC, sure. But like based on talent, we should be worse than we are. The whole MAC should be. So I don't know what you can say as far as how he hasn't lived up to your own standards. It's like your standards are high because he develops good men, puts them in the NFL. Like he's the reason that your standards are high. The last 2 seasons of a MAC championship and then going 11-3 is why your standards are high. It sucks to lose games, but like you're not going to go 16-0 at Toledo. Like you're not going to go 16-0 anywhere. We just saw the SEC fucking implode this week. So
Exactly.
Just, if you got names out there, put them in the comments. We'd love to hear them.
I think rational is the theme here, and huge Toledo fan here. Want to see them go undefeated, want to see them make the playoffs potentially down the road. But let's be honest here, like NIL's the game now, and Toledo does not have the funding to keep up with some of these big time universities. So it's up to Candle to find the diamonds in the rough from high school and develop and, bring the type of quality of players that we're used to seeing but these big time universities can just go out and buy what they want, essentially.
Yeah, and I mean, you bring up a good point. Is I think player development, is one of his strong points. You look at these kids that were 2 and 3 star athletes coming out of high school. They've come into the program, they've stuck with it. They stuck with it for 5 and 6 years. And just like Quinyon Mitchell turns into an NFL first rounder, and nobody wanted him coming out of high school. He was a 3 star, barely a 3 star. And it happens a lot with Candle's programs where the players stick with it, just buy into the program, buy into the culture, and become better players, better players. And, you know, the fact that we cover Florida so well as far as recruiting, and a big chunk of the East Coast and Midwest uh, says a lot as to the kind of coaches that Candles brings in with him. So I think you have to look at that, and he's not going out and trying to buy championships. Like, you look at Indiana, they have 27 transfers, and a
Look
lot
at
of them
Michigan.
are from James Madison, or Michigan has tons of transfers. They're not
They just bought
developing.
their quarterback.
Yeah, they're not developing the young players and developing them into uh, good players and good people. So I think if you look at the character of the whole program, I think that's really important.
And another thing, I'm not even going to name the troll on Twitter, but he says, zero projected draft picks. Well, hey, buddy, we just got two guys that got East West Shrine Bowl invites and Reese's Senior Bowl invites, Darius Alexander and Maxon Hook. You don't get invites to those if you're not an NFL prospect.
And I
So,
believe, Torres just got invited to the Hula Bowl.
yep, Torres and Newton to the Hula Bowl. We've got other guys that, I mean, sadly, we've lost to injury this year. And even guys that are banged up and playing their hearts out, like Jacquez, who's got, sub 4.4 speed, that could find himself anywhere, maybe as a special teams guy, or maybe a Canadian Football League all-star. So if that's really what you think, you can bet me the over under 1.5 guys drafted, because we're guaranteed to have at least one, and I think we could have 3 or 4.
Yeah, I think as a fan personally, I'm very pleased about what Toledo is producing, and especially for the next level, because with the current landscape of football, unfortunately, MAC schools could slide into essentially JUCO schools, or just grabbing what we can in the transfer portal that the big universities don't want. And I think Toledo is showing that, hey, we're still developing here, we're still finding good players, and we can win.
Yeah, and that's pretty much all we've done since Candle's been the coach, is develop good players and win. I mean,
For
one
sure.
one 500 season or sub 500 season is not a bad record.
Going on, I think our players of the game were unanimous here, and 2 of those NFL guys that we were talking about. Offensively, I think we all agree. Anthony Torres, 2 receptions, 39 yards, a touchdown, his 7th touchdown of the year. Very impressive from the tight end spot. In a league of the MAC that has, Tanner Koziol and Harold Fannin Jr., who are tremendous talents at tight end, Torres is going to be a all MAC some team tight end. That's good for him. And then Maxon Hook, 16 tackles totals, 6 solo, a pick. He's been the guy all year. Seems like he's on every tackle.
Should have had a fumble.
Yeah. I mean, and great family, great dude. He's going to move on to bigger and better things. And just his family is awesome too. I mean, they tried out my chili this weekend. They gave it a good thumbs up. So I was glad I got to meet them in his final year here at Toledo. And then special teams, I guess we could forego it. We didn't have to do. We don't have too much to choose from. Another good punting game from Emilio. Cannon made his extra point, and Bryson Hammer had a decent return. Jacquez had a decent return, but that's kind of just wraps up the Ohio game. And now we're on to Akron.
Akron, the Zips. Is this a trap game? Is this a letdown game?
On paper,
Vegas's line is interesting. I think it's just 8 points favored for Toledo, which I was kind of surprised about.
ESPN bet is 7.5 right now.
Well, that sucks for me because I got the number at 8.5 when it opened this morning. I bet on Toledo. But they're playing better. They knocked off Eastern Michigan. They just beat their rival in the wagon wheel, Kent, who is mighty awful. But they've got a chance to finish ahead of Ball State or Central Michigan in the standings. They got a good quarterback actually. Finley, he got his bell rung on like the first drive of the season against Ohio State on like a horrible targeting call where the Ohio State guy got ejected. But he's thrown 14 touchdowns and 9 picks. He's got 2,400 yards. So for Akron, that's damn impressive. They've got a dynamic run game. They've got like this big ass dude that runs on the goal line. He only has 149 yards on the season, but he's got 7 touchdowns. So if they get it in there in the red zone, we're really going to have to stop him. That's Bullock, and then their regular every down back Simmons, 664 yards rushing, 2 touchdowns. Just like Ohio, they've got a big play receiver. Where actually Ohio didn't use theirs at all last week. We shut them down passing pretty good. Adrian Newton has 831 yards receiving and 7 touchdowns, but that's a 19.3 yard average. So I think Akron's going to want to score quick too. This game might have a lot of possessions. Defensively, they've got CJ Nunley the fourth, who's got 5 sacks. So that's kind of their only guy that really clogs up the middle and gets to the quarterback, which is good for Toledo's offensive line that's been injured and to an extent struggling. And then they, as a team, they have 3 interceptions all year. So we should be able to throw on them as long as the weather's not terrible. And Brian McCoy's their tackling dude at linebacker. He's got 103 tackles on the year. But I don't know. It's kind of a sad spot. Are the seniors going to rally? And are they going to get this team up so we can get to 8-4 and feel good going into a bowl game? Or does Akron have the edge here, thinking that they can finally knock off Toledo, maybe gain some recruiting edge here? Oh, we'll see. I was going to go to this game. I'm not going to go anymore. Tuesday before Thanksgiving, it's kind of tough. But there'll be 35 whole fans in the stadium here, so probably not going to be the most juiced environment if I had to guess.
Yeah, true. I mean, you look at Akron's record coming in, they've only won 3 games on the year, one of them being against Kent State, but they've played a lot of teams very tough. I mean, they only lost to Bowling Green by 7, 27-20. They lost to Western by 10, and they lost to Buffalo by 9, and we lost to Bowling Green and Buffalo as well by bigger margins. So I don't think they're going to be any slouch, and they're going to be, hopefully it's going to be a good game, a good solid game that they're amped up for, even if we don't have a good crowd.
Have we heard anything about Gleason, if he's playing?
Nothing's been released as far as
that makes it a little interesting with Toledo's offensive game plan.
Yeah, it could be a big change if Gleason's not ready to go.
If we're not going to run him, like I thought we might try to do a little bit more against Ohio, I say let Richter go. Jar's just so much more decisive, and if the place to pick apart the Akron defense is through the secondary, I want to see Richter start and at least get our wide receivers some confidence, because we've had a lot of drops this year too, and I feel like you're only getting 2 targets a game. You're nervous when the ball's coming your way, so I think we'll be in decent shape either or. But yeah, hopefully Gleason's healthy at least.
Yeah, I've seen some things this year from Richter that I like, and if he starts, it could be a slow start, but I don't see why you can't carve up some in the air and get us some quick scoring. If he starts, honestly, I think Toledo could actually pull off a bigger win, which is crazy to say, but it just seems like a good recipe for that.
Yeah, I think you're fairly right there, Kyle. I think there is a good opportunity for this to be a bounce back game. If the coaches have the team in the right mindset, hey, look, our season's not over. You're building for something. You're building to get into a good bowl game. This is the game to go out and take care of business and show the world that, you're not as poor as you might seem after that Ohio U game.
for
I think
sure.
there's a big opportunity for us to score a lot of points. We might give up a few points, but I thinking that we're going to be able to come through and get a decent victory in this one, hopefully.
This game reminds me of the 2013 game to end the season. And that year, I think Akron was 4-7 coming into the game. We were 7-4, and they beat us. That Akron team was building to something. They were actually decent the next year. And the MAC that year was also fantastic. Toledo had some big wins. We beat a bowl eligible Buffalo. We beat a bowl eligible MAC championship eventual Bowling Green team. I think Central Michigan we beat that year. They were bowl eligible. Like, kind of reminds me of this year, and we stubbed our toe there, and then declined a bowl bid at 7-5. And I remember being at practice. Like, we had the Sunday practice after because you're probably going to get 15 more practices once the bowls come out. And Michael Bryan walked out, and they about 45 minutes into practice and told the team, like, we're not going anywhere. And it sucked for those seniors. It was like Jaron Elliott's senior year, eventual Green Bay Packer. And just that team didn't have it. And if we lose to Akron, I could see a similar thing showing that, 7-5 is not good enough at Toledo. But the good thing after that is Toledo did rebound the next year, got a little bit better. 2015 had an awesome year. So, we'll see. I don't see this being the end to an era or anything like that, as you might see on Twitter. But we're ready for score predictions. I'm going to be Gloom. I'm going to be Mr. Gloom today. I'm going to go Akron 24, Rockets 21. Like I said earlier, I did bet on Toledo minus 8.5. So I really am still hoping my Rockets win, but we're going to have to show it. Does our team have that moxie? Do we have that grit, or are we just going to fold?
So you're erring on the side of folding then, I guess, with this prediction.
I don't want to be wrong, guys.
No, I get it. I am on the other side of the fence with this one. I think the Rockets are going to be able to pull things together, put up a good number, and hopefully our defense can shut them down. I'm going to say 34-10, Toledo wins.
Well, before I give my prediction, Rocket Ryan did mail in his. He's predicting a big win for UT, 42-14. Which is
similar mindset.
That'd be an impressive comeback. Yeah.
If we can put up 42, that'd be amazing.
I don't see that happening.
Unless
I do see a win.
Gets out there and throws it all over the field.
Yeah, I see 31-17. UT wins, and hey, everybody, I said Toledo's going to lose against Ohio, so
you're right on
nothing but the truth here.
Nate?
I'm gonna go a little bit closer with Dan saying, but I think it's still gonna be a Rocket win. I think Akron, coming off that win against Kent State. I know Kent State is really, really bad, but still got that win over them coming into the last game of the season. It's gonna be senior night for them. I'm gonna say it's gonna be a 27-24 game. UT wins, but I think Akron could keep it close.
Right on. And if you guys are, Tuesday night looking for somewhere to watch the game, Whiskey Red Saloon, you can see the flag right here. They'll be doing drink specials, and they got a new food menu down there. So
nice.
If you want to head out, and that's your place to watch Toledo Rockets football, you're only going to have 1 or 2 more chances this year. And then it's the City Hall for all our basketball games. So speaking of basketball, Pat, women's team looked good the last week and a half. What do we got?
Yeah, I believe so. They looked really good Friday night. They hosted Long Beach State on a Friday night contest, and I tell you what, they're a young team. They're continuing to get better with each game, I think. And from what I understand, Coach Bogus is playing a lot of younger kids with anticipation of bringing some more of the senior players into the fold come MAC season. And now I don't know that's just the word on the street that I've picked up. I don't know how accurate that is, but they had a really good night Friday night. They ended ended up winning the game following previous win over Northern Kentucky. Northern Kentucky out of just over the river in Cincinnati. They beat them 76-73 last Sunday. Kira Goss led the Rockets. She had 19 with 7-11 shooting on the night. And Sammy McConowitz had 16 points, made all of her free throw attempts, all 7 of them that night. And she ended up with 7 rebounds. So Sammy's just doing Sammy things like she's done since day one coming on the program. It was really nice to see Nan Garcia get in there at the end of that game against Northern Kentucky and have a putback, which was basically her game-winning shot with 2.5 seconds left in the game. So it was a nice win back last Sunday. Then this past Friday, Long Beach State came in, and it was basically close, the beginning of the first quarter. And once they reached the second quarter, the Rockets kind of took charge and ended up with, I'd say, probably their best win so far this season.
Yeah, I'd agree, Pat. The Lady Rockets shot 52.8% from the field, which was their best on the year. And they went 10 of 21 from 3, which was by far the best of the year.
Yeah.
And then we saw our point guard, Cadence Dykstra, not miss a shot and score 13 points, which I think is huge for her. I mean, we've been accustomed to a scoring point guard here at Toledo for quite some time, losing Sophia Wired last year. And if Cadence can have performances like that, I mean, maybe even if it's just 8 points, but didn't turn it over. I think she had 7 assists or 7 rebounds.
Yeah.
So that was a huge game for her.
Definitely
and then,
her best game so far.
For sure. And then, Carruthers, she had 19 points there against Long Beach State. She had 15 against Northern Kentucky. 4,000 fans in the non-con. Those late game pushes are really helping our team, mold into what they're going to become the rest of the year. So congrats on the pretty good start here from the Ginny Bogus era.
Yeah, I mean, in that game, there was they got up by 16, I think, in the third quarter, and Long Beach did put on a late rally, but the Rockets were able to hold them off. And like you said, Kendall Carruthers had a great game. She had 19 points. She was 7 of 9 shooting, and she was 4 for 4 from 3. Well, and she got 6 assists in that game. So it was a huge game for Carruthers, the Holland Springfield product via St. Francis of PA transfer. And like you said, Dykstra had her most complete game in her career. I mean, she's only a sophomore, didn't play a lot last year, but it was nice to see her get on track, because I think one of the biggest things, my biggest doubts, early on in this season is whether Dykstra could handle herself at this level. And she showed us Friday night that she can.
1,000%.
Yeah. And then the Lady Rockets go to Annapolis this coming weekend, Saturday and Sunday. They play in the Navy Thanksgiving Classic. And I tell you what, the 2 games that they have are against 6-0 Navy and 6-1 Maryland, or 5-1 Maryland. Maryland, just their only loss was to number 15 Marquette coming into this tournament. Maryland has some large girls and some great athletes on their team. They have a strange mixture of like just great athletes, and it's not from what I've seen, it's not a really traditional team that has your center, your 2 forwards, and 2 guards. It's like they could all play forward, they could all play guard, and Navy comes into this tournament at 6-0. They haven't really beaten anyone big. They've beaten Ryder, Bryn, Athen. They've beaten Iona, Wagner, Radford, and Longwood. And I think Iona is the only team that's been in the tournament in like the last 2 or 3 years. So it doesn't matter who they've played, I guess. But when you're coming into a tournament like this and you're traveling pretty far away to Annapolis, you've got to be ready to go. And hopefully Coach Bogus has them ready to go for this tournament. And
Yeah,
hopefully we're able to pick it up on ESPN Plus instead of like the men's little tournament this past weekend, which was on Baller Sports or whatever the hell that was, some third-rate, ridiculous network.
Was that just for this tournament, or is that going to be like a future thing for Mac? Or does anyone know?
No, I think that was just put on, like that Boardwalk Classic signed up for this streaming service.
Okay.
Yeah, the Lady Terps are going to be tough. They're like at point of recording, they're 11th in the nation.
Yeah.
So that's one you just want to stay competitive with. Improve on the Iowa score that we had a few weeks back. And then Navy, that's a team you can go out and beat. Like you said, they've kind of just stuck up in the Northeast and played some, lower majors this year. And they're not traditionally a great program, but hey, 6-0 team, probably not going to have a huge crowd. But that game against Maryland, I'm sure the Lady Terp fans will be out showing out for that. So
yeah, it's not a long travel to get there.
And that kind of wraps up women's basketball right now. A good 9 days since we last recorded for them. And the men, last time we recorded, the Rockets played at 4:00 when we were recording at about 2. So they did defeat Detroit Mercy, an improved Detroit team over last year by a damn good margin out there in a Callahan Hall. Wilson went off. Sonny had an awesome game, 22 points. Well, we won 82-67. It was close at half, but we just pulled away and kind of stepped on their throat, which was good to see. We had, I think, after that, we went down to the Boardwalk Classic, and we started off with Stetson, who's not having a very good year. We won 103-78. Sonny again led the team with 21 points. So Seth Hubbard was 17. We had 6 guys in double figures, so kind of everybody was playing. But then we got our first real challenge since that Marshall game or Troy game early on in the season, and we pulled it out. We won 82-80 against Jacksonville State. Now they're a pretty decent Sun Belt team. I could see them contending. They got some a lot of meat on their bones there. There's some jacked dudes playing basketball. It's like they could have been playing football for them. But we went 8 of 10 from 3. We only shot 10 3-pointers, but we made 8 of them. That's a damn good percentage there.
Yeah.
One thing I didn't like about that game, though, the only thing I didn't like really was that we shortened our bench down to 8. We only played Lawrenceston, Ford, and Hubbard off the bench. Ford had a good game. I think he had 10 points. We only had 4 turnovers, which is incredible, and 18 assists, which is by far our highest mark this year. And we put out a little bit of projections going into the championship game there against UC San Diego, and we thought it might go a little bit different. I didn't get eyes on it. I was at a Toledo Walleye game, who also lost, but yikes, we lost by about 40 points there. The real thing to me, just scoreboard watching, was Isaiah Adams and Sam Lewis. They combined 3 of 19 from the floor. And if those are 2 of your guys that are going to be in your top 3 or 4 in scoring, you can't shoot that bad. So I don't know if they had too many cocktails the night before down in Daytona Beach or what happened there, but that's one to forget. And really, San Diego was led by Tyler McGee, who had 27, and he was 7 of 11 from 3. So, you guys have any input from watching any of that tournament, or at least listening to Mark and Jay on the radio?
I listened a little bit. Yeah, it seemed, going into the finals that they were playing really tight, really, really good ball. Rather not tight, playing loose. And they were shooting well, and the wheels just fell off in that in the latter part of the finals against UC San Diego.
Did you hear that they were using a different ball there?
No, I did not. So
they were using a Wilson branded basketball, and that's not a sanctioned basketball for college basketball, which we're used to Nike. You play at an Adidas school using Adidas, but the Wilson balls are actually a little bit heavier.
Huh.
So Kowalczyk was kind of mad going into the tournament. He's like, a 3-day tournament is great because we need to get ready for the MAC tournament later in the year. That's something that you need to get experience with. But the fact that you're not using a basketball, you're going to use any other game the rest of the season is kind of wild. But the fact that we shot okay the first 2 games, I mean, I guess it didn't really matter.
Right.
It's
But
interesting.
yeah, really interesting that we used a different ball, and hopefully they never go back to this tournament. I mean, because it was poorly promoted, it was poorly covered by the media, or at least their streaming service, and they're using non-sanctioned balls. It's almost like they just threw this all together at the last moment.
I think this weekend that tournament they're hosting another tournament for high majors in the same arena. So they're going to do like Boardwalk Battle Part 2 with some bigger schools, which is interesting. I wish we would have been playing somebody other than Stetson, but what are you going to do? It's non-conference, and the men do have some big non-cons coming up later in the schedule here in December. So we'll see how we fare. Saturday, the Rockets will be at home against Oakland, who was an NCAA tournament team last year.
Mm-hmm.
But Eastern Michigan did beat them about a week ago, so they're not as good. I've heard that they don't have the point guard play that they're accustomed to there up in Oakland, but if we can win that, get to 6-2, and then start ramping up for our big non-cons against Purdue and Houston, that'd be very nice. So go out Saturday and phone watch earlier in the day while the ladies are in Annapolis, and go see the men in action and close and personal at Savage Arena.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I and Oakland is always been a thorn in our side, whether they've beaten us or they played us really tough. Greg Campy, former BG player, former assistant coach at Toledo, always has his teams ready to play the Rockets, and no matter who they've got on their roster, it's always a tight ball game, and it's always a fun game to watch, really, for me.
Yeah, Nate. So with your big Saturdays where you get to sit down and you get to watch all your college football games, how is it frustrating for you to have to get eyes on basketball games too, or do you not mind sitting on that 2 o'clock window?
No, I don't mind. This week I didn't get to catch any this weekend just because of where it was streaming from. But I no, I don't mind. I kind of pay attention if there's a game going on and I'll watch it. So I mean, I I I enjoy basketball season going on, and like I'll catch some of the bigger matchups, but I'm still focused on football. I won't lie. I haven't
It's
got
still football season.
yeah, I haven't done that until the bowl game's over. I'm still in that football mode. So, but
Any trips to any games coming up?
I'm finally gonna make it to one. I think this week, Friday, at 2:30 Central Time. I will be hopefully at Sam Houston State. They play Liberty, so I think I'm gonna hit that game. Kind of a big matchup for them. For the Sun Belt, I think the winner of that. Oh, Conference Tuesday. Sorry, you're right. And
Yeah.
the winner of that has a chance to go to the championship. Depending on, I think Western Kentucky is also in the mix there. So,
Yep. Yeah, if Liberty wins, they're in against Jacksonville State. Western Kentucky, I think, has to beat Jacksonville State this weekend to get in, and I think they would probably just play Jacksonville State again.
okay, yeah.
So
Sam Houston State, I think, is up there too. So I didn't know. I think they're
they need
tie
chaos.
Yeah, it's like a three-way tie for a second. I think with Western Kentucky, Sam Houston, and Liberty, and then Jacksonville State is up there by itself. So,
Yep.
kind of a cool. It's not a very big stadium, but it's like the second to last stadium I need in the state of Texas. So I'm gonna go there.
Hell yeah. And then Pat, you want to wrap up our other fall sports here?
Yeah, I'll just wrap up real quickly with the women's volleyball team. They were knocked out of the MAC tournament by the number 3 seed in Ball State. They ended up losing 25-16, 25-11, and 25-22. So only one really tight game, or really tight, game in that set, or set in that match rather. Ball State, very good team. I think they finished up their season at 21-9. We finished up our season at 11-14, I think. And the Toledo was led by Taylor Alt, who is been a stud all season. We finished the season 17-14, but Taylor Alt, she's a senior. She was all MAC last year. She's all MAC performer this year. And, it was too bad she wasn't able to go out on a better note because she's been a solid, a very solid performer all season long. And one other note on volleyball, the Rockets lost their head coach. It was just announced that today that Jason Oliver accepted a coaching position with the Pro Volleyball Federation's Grand Rapid Rise. He's been with the Rockets for 7 seasons. Loved being here from what he said, but a better opportunity came along. I mean, he compiled he had a 77-14 record and 10-8 in the MAC. Over the past 4 years, it's been 42-30. So it's tough to see him go, but I'm sure Brian Blair will be able to get out there and scout out a nice replacement for him to bring into the program. And I believe, Dan, you said there's been some players from Western Kentucky that had talked about playing for that team.
Yeah, just getting ready for the football season. I was listening to that Topper Talk podcast, who was gracious enough to have us on earlier in the year, and we had them on as well. Shout out College Huddle on YouTube there and Twitter. Yeah, they've got a few professionals there. I think their head coach was the coach of that team at one point and then came back to Western Kentucky, and they've had a few players. I mean, Western Kentucky has a solid volleyball program there.
Yeah.
So at least I've only heard good things of that league, and I've only heard good things of that specific team in Grand Rapids. So just
nice.
A small world, I guess.
Yeah, nice. And then wrapping everything up with the fall sports, the cross country team had an amazing year. Again, the women's cross country team, for the second time in the last 3 years, they made it to the NCAA championships. They performed admirably. I believe they came in 30th, and we beat out Texas. So that is a nice win for the Lady Rockets. Their top performer, if I can figure out just how to pronounce her last name.
Mercy Kenyan-Jui.
Kenyan-Jui. I always want to say Kenyan-Ji, but she came in 62nd overall, which is a nice performance. And, just for the Lady Rockets to get back to the NCAA championships is an incredible feat. We placed, I believe, 11th in the NCAA, or we placed 3rd in the NCAA regionals. Mm-hmm. And also on the men's side of the cross country ledger, we had a single performer qualify for the NCAA championships, and he's a freshman. He came in 172nd out of about 250 runners. So not a spectacular performance, but at least, as a freshman, he got there. And his name is Dominic Serum. He finished with a time of 30:28. That's pretty damn good for a 10K. And just to have the experience to get there and finish at least, in the middle or lower middle of the pack is a hell of a performance, because we have not had a NCAA championship qualifier in school history in men's cross country. So it's nice to see that. And I know Ryan has espoused this for the last couple of months, that just to get that kind of quality athlete to come to Toledo to run cross country only, because we don't have a men's track team, is pretty impressive. So hopefully good things are in the future for that program as well.
Yeah. And just to continue to add a little information that isn't necessarily Toledo to that, Western Michigan ended up winning the MAC in volleyball. Pretty good team. They're always pretty good, especially lately. An Alabama female won the single racer for the women's cross country nationally, but BYU's girls as a team won. Yeah. And then on the men's side, a Harvard runner won, which is very impressive. And then BYU also won the men's side. So the mountains up there, it's probably easier to run with all that thin air,
Yep, and they get down into Wisconsin where they held the national championships at a lower altitude and much easier to fly.
For sure.
So
All
is
right,
that
guys.
gonna
I think that puts the cherry on top, and
put a ball
just
in
a
this
message
bitch?
to Rocket fans. The football season's not over. Continue to go out, support the Rockets. We got basketball coming in. Get to the home games, support the Rockets. We can still make a bowl game for football. It's a good season. So all the doom and gloom, ignore it. Continue to support our Rockets.
Yeah,
So
and
with
Nate,
that,
one thing, Nate, me and Nate are Michigan State guys second. Far secondary to Toledo. If they knock off Rutgers, they could be in that Detroit Lions Bowl or whatever the Detroit Bowl's called now. Toledo versus Michigan State. We could be able to pack that place out for a bowl game. So you got to have hope. We got to get it started this weekend and knock off Akron.
So I looked at the
absolutely.
current projections for just per ESPN. Right now, they had Toledo in either the Idaho Potato Bowl.
No.
I know. Or the Snoop Dogg Arizona Bowl. Or the two.
Oh, Snoop Dogg sponsoring the Arizona Bowl now. That's
We
awesome.
just did that. I don't want to do that one either. And the payout's not great, and it's probably not on TV, just like last year. Like, we did it, it's fine, but
I've been paying close attention to that one, Dan, because I would love to see the Michigan State Toledo the matchup. But no, yeah, I think actually one of them had Michigan in the Detroit Bowl, so that would also be interesting. So
oh man, they don't want to see us. If they played Eastern Michigan, if Eastern Michigan knocked off Western and got there, Eastern Michigan versus Michigan would be electric in Detroit. Just saying.
Oh my God, that would be insane.
They might as well just play it at the factory at that point and just stay a little bit closer to home.
Dan, do you know what MAC placement do you have to have that bowl, or like how does that work? Do you know?
They're all at larges. It's
Yeah.
whoever wants who.
I think they usually go after like the third or fourth place player in. I don't know is it the GMAC Bowl anymore? I don't even know what it's called.
No,
It's Game Above Sports.
What is it?
Game Above Sports Bowl.
Okay.
So that's Detroit. So that's actually the name of Eastern Michigan's basketball arena is the George Gervin Game
That's
Above Center. So something with gambling, or I don't know what that actually means. It might be like a training facility type deal. But the Alabama Bowl for years, the one in Mobile, I think now it's called the 68 Ventures Bowl. That was the one that always took the first or second place MAC team.
Right.
And that was always against a pretty damn good Sun Belt team. But now everything's so jumbled. There's going to be, I think, more bowl eligible teams than bowls this year, just because the middle of the pack is just everything's kind of collapsed in on itself. So we could be in Myrtle Beach, the Bahamas, Idaho, Frisco, Montgomery, Alabama. I mean, it's really a crapshoot. But about the Detroit Bowl, I mean, who are they going to want? If there's going to be one of Eastern and Western are going to be bowl eligible, that's it. And then Bowling Green's been there the last 2 years. So they're going to want a local team to draw. And I think that Toledo's definitely going to be one of the teams that at least gets mentioned. But and the payout's good too. $750,000. Like the Bahamas is like 200 and some.
Right.
So
they get to go to the Bahamas. So I mean,
sure, but that cost doesn't even probably cover your whole team's travels to Atlantis.
Right.
So Detroit, I think, would be a good option. But if it turns into like a Conference USA team or something that goes there, like New Mexico State was there a few years back, I'd pass on. I mean, I would go, but as far as the whole trip, there's probably not a ton to do in Detroit besides go see a Red Wings or a Pistons game. So
yeah, there's some good food to eat downtown, but
downtown's great. I love Detroit. I do. It's just
for anybody out there listening and watching, wondering what Game Above is. Game Above is a successful, multifaceted brand that includes charitable giving, capital investment, sports entertainment, and media ventures.
Oh, I was wrong.
Kind of like a more professional barstool, probably.
Okay, love it. Sorry to cut you off there, Kyle.
That's all right. It's all good info. But we'll wrap it up. And only one thing to say. To you well.
EDO.